I stood at my daughter's door with nothing but an old suitcase and ash on my clothes. The smell of smoke still clung to my hair. Grace opened the door. Her eyes swept over me from head to toe. No warmth, no concern, just annoyance. "Mom, what are you doing here?" My voice cracked when I spoke. "Grace, honey, there was a fire. My house. Everything's gone. I need—" She cut me off. "I don't do charity, Mom. My house isn't a shelter." Behind her, I heard Adam laugh. That low, mocking laugh that made my stomach turn. He was sitting on the sofa I'd bought them 3 years ago. The leather one they'd begged me for. $1,700 I didn't have but gave anyway. The living room I was staring into, I'd paid for everything in it. The TV mounted on the wall, the coffee table, even the electricity keeping the lights on. All of it. 8 years of my Social Security checks. 8 years of working past retirement age, my knees aching with every step. And now this. I tried again. "Grace, please, just for a few days until I figure out—" "We don't have space," Adam called out from the sofa. "Tell her we can't afford to take in strays, babe." Strays. He called me a stray. Grace didn't even flinch. She just looked at me with those cold eyes and said, "He's right. We're barely getting by ourselves." Something inside me went very still. I'd been giving them $1,800 a month, every single month for 8 years. That was more than my entire Social Security check. I knew exactly how much money they had because I was the one providing it. But I didn't say any of that. Not yet. I just smiled. A quiet, sad smile. I nodded. I picked up my suitcase and turned around. Behind me, I heard the door close. Not a slam, just a quiet click that somehow hurt worse. I walked down the apartment hallway, past the elevator, down 3 flights of stairs because my hands were shaking too badly to trust myself with the elevator button. When I reached the street, I sat on the curb for a moment. The November air was cold. I could see my breath. I took out my cell phone. My fingers found the number I'd been avoiding for months. The one I'd saved but hoped I'd never need. The bank's automated system answered. I pressed through the menu until I reached a real person. "First National Bank, this is Derek speaking. How can I help you?" "I need to cancel all automatic transfers," I said. My voice sounded strange. Calm. Too calm. "Account holder name, Hannah Peterson." "And which transfers would you like to cancel?" "All of them. Every transfer going to Grace Miller and Adam Miller. Every single one. Starting right now." There was a pause. Keyboard clicking. "Ma'am, I see you have multiple recurring transfers set up to those accounts. Are you sure you want to cancel all of them?" "I'm completely sure. Just to confirm, once these are canceled, you'll need to set them up again manually if you change your mind." I almost laughed. Change my mind after what just happened. "I understand. Cancel them all, today." "Done. The cancellations are effective immediately. Is there anything else I can help you with?" "No, thank you." I hung up. For a moment, I just sat there on the curb holding my phone. The screen went dark and I could see my reflection in it. An old woman with gray hair and tired eyes. But behind those tired eyes, something new was burning. The next day, my phone had 45 missed calls. But let me tell you how I got here. Because this story doesn't start with a fire. It starts much earlier. It starts with a little girl who used to sleep on my chest and call me her hero. Grace was born on April 19th, 1992, at 4:47 in the morning. She came into this world screaming, her tiny fists clenched like she was already ready to fight. I was 25 years old and completely alone. Her father, Michael, had left 6 months earlier. I can still remember the day I told him I was pregnant. We were sitting in his beat-up Honda Civic outside my apartment. He'd just gotten off his shift at the auto shop. "I'm pregnant," I'd said. He'd stared straight ahead through the windshield. Not at me. Never at me. "I can't do this," he'd said. "I'm not ready to be a father." "Michael, please." "I'm sorry, Hannah. I can't." He'd driven away that night and I never saw him again. No forwarding address, no phone calls, nothing. So there I was, 25, pregnant, working 2 jobs and living in a 400-square-foot apartment that cost $450 a month. But when they placed Grace in my arms for the first time, none of that mattered. She had the tiniest fingers I'd ever seen. They wrapped around my thumb and held on tight. Her eyes were closed, but her little mouth was moving, searching. "Hi, baby girl." I'd whispered. "I'm your mama, and I'm going to give you everything." I meant it. God help me, I meant every word. The first years were the hardest. I worked cleaning houses Monday through Saturday. $8 an hour. I'd leave Grace with Mrs. Chen next door who watched her for $20 a day. On Sundays, I did laundry for people. $5 a bag. I'd have Grace with me playing on a blanket on the floor while I sorted whites from colors. She grew up in other people's kitchens, playing with wooden spoons while I mopped their floors. The women I worked for would sometimes give her cookies. Other times, they'd look at me with pity in their eyes. I hated that look, but I kept my head high because I was building something. I was giving my daughter a life. I remember the smell of her hair after bath time, that sweet scent of cheap Johnson and Johnson baby shampoo that would linger on my hands when I combed her hair before bed. I remember how she would hug me when I came home from work. Her whole little body would wrap around my legs and squeeze tight, like that hug could take away all the exhaustion. When Grace was 6 years old, she drew me a picture at school. It was me in a dress covered with crooked flowers. Underneath, in her careful first-grade handwriting, she wrote, "My mommy is the prettiest in the world." I cried when I saw it. Right there in the school hallway, holding that piece of construction paper, I cried. I kept that drawing for years, took it with me to every new apartment we moved to, put it on the wall of every place we lived. It was my reminder, my proof that all the sacrifice was worth it. But then Grace grew up. Somewhere around age 12, things started to change. She stopped running to me when I came home, stopped hugging me goodbye before school. She'd look at my uniform, the plain blue polo shirt from the cleaning company, and her face would tighten. One day when she was 14, I picked her up from school. Her friend Ashley was with her. "Is that your mom?" Ashley had asked. Grace had looked at me, at my cleaning company shirt, at my worn-out sneakers, at my tired face. "Yeah," she'd said quietly. "That's her. Not my mom, just her." I'd felt it then, that distance opening up between us, like a crack in ice that starts small but keeps spreading. "It's normal," I'd told myself that night lying in bed. "Teenagers pull away. She'll come back." But she never really did. Grace graduated high school with decent grades. Not great, but good enough for community college. She got a job at an electronics store to pay for her classes. I was so proud of her. My daughter going to college, the first person in our family to do it. Then, at 22, she met Adam. I can still remember the first time she brought him home. He was tall, 6'2", with an easy smile and smooth words. He worked in sales at a car dealership, or at least that's what he said. Later I'd learn he bounced from job to job every few months. "Mrs. Peterson," he'd said, shaking my hand. "Grace has told me so much about you." "Call me Hannah, please." He'd smiled at me, that charming smile that I'd later learn hid so much. "Hannah, then. Grace says you're a real inspiration. Raised her all by yourself. That takes real strength." I'd liked him at first. Who wouldn't? He was polite. He seemed to treat Grace well. He made her laugh. But there was something small I couldn't quite name. The second time he came over, he'd asked about my retirement. "So, Hannah, you still working, or are you getting that Social Security yet?" It was a strange question for a second meeting, but I'd answered anyway. "I'm 62. I'll start getting my full benefits next year." He'd nodded, glanced at Grace. Something passed between them that I couldn't read. I should have paid more attention to that moment. Grace and Adam got married a year later. It was a small ceremony at City Hall, just 10 of us. I paid for lunch afterward at a modest Italian restaurant. $1,200 I didn't have but put on a credit card anyway. Grace wore a white dress we'd found together at a thrift store. $50, but she looked beautiful in it. When she hugged me after the ceremony, I'd held her tight. "I'm so happy for you, honey." "Thanks, Mom." That was the last real hug I ever got from her. 2 months later, they showed up at my door. It was a Tuesday evening. I'd just gotten home from work, my back aching from scrubbing bathroom floors all day. I was making myself a simple dinner ramen noodles with a fried egg on top when the knock came. Grace and Adam stood in my doorway. Both of them had long faces. "Mom, we need to talk." My heart dropped. That's never a good way to start a conversation. They came in and sat on my worn couch. Grace's hands were twisted together in her lap. Adam stared at the floor. "What's wrong?" I asked. Grace looked at Adam. He looked at her. Some silent communication passed between them. Finally, Grace spoke. "Mom, we're in trouble." "What kind of trouble?" "Adam lost his job 3 weeks ago, and I'm barely making minimum wage at the store. We can't pay rent. The landlord gave us a notice. If we don't pay by Friday, we're getting evicted." I sat down slowly. "How much do you need?" $400. $400. That was most of my savings. I'd been putting away $50 a month for 2 years. It was my emergency fund. I looked at my daughter, at the worry in her eyes, at the shame on Adam's face. "Just until Adam finds something," Grace added quickly. "We'll pay you back in 3 months. I promise, Mom." 3 months, I thought. Okay, I can do that. I went to my bedroom and pulled the coffee can from the back of my closet. I counted out $400 in 20s and 10s. When I handed it to Grace, she hugged me. "Thank you, Mom. Thank you so much. We'll pay you back. I promise." 3 months passed, then 6 months, then a year. The money never came back, but the requests did. "Mom, the electric bill is due and we're $50 short." "Mom, groceries are so expensive now. Can you help us with $100? "Mom, Adam's car needs a new battery. It's $200. Every time I said yes, because that's what mothers do right. We sacrifice. We give until there's nothing left. By year 2, they weren't requests anymore. They were demands disguised as emergencies. Grace stopped saying please. Adam stopped pretending to be ashamed. They'd just text me. "Need $1,500 for rent. Transfer by the 1st. Food money, $500 to the account. Utilities due, $200. So I set up automatic transfers. Made it easier for everyone. Rent $1,500 per month. Food $500 per month. Utilities and internet $200 per month. Various expenses $300 per month. Total $2,500 per month. But wait, you're thinking, Hannah, didn't you say you were only giving them $1,800? That's because by year 3, I'd negotiated them down. I literally couldn't afford $2,500. So we compromised at $1,800. Let me tell you what my life looked like during those years. At 65, I was still cleaning houses. My back ached every morning when I got out of bed. My knees made a clicking sound every time I bent down. My hands were red and rough from chemicals. My typical day, 6 o'clock a.m. Wake up, take my blood pressure medication. Half a pill instead of a whole one, because I was rationing it to make the prescription last longer. 6:30 a.m. Leave for Mrs. Rodriguez's house. Clean her 3-bedroom home for 4 hours. $100. 11 a.m. Drive to the law office downtown. Clean 6 offices, 2 bathrooms, and a conference room. 3 hours. $90. 3 o'clock p.m. Home. Eat something quick. Usually peanut butter on bread. 4 p.m. Do laundry for Mrs. Patterson and her elderly mother. Wash, dry, fold. 2 hours. $40. 7 p.m. Make dinner. More peanut butter. Or ramen. Or whatever was cheapest. 8 o'clock p.m. Fall asleep on the couch watching TV. That was my life, every single day. Even on Sundays, I'd pick up extra work when I could. Also, Grace and Adam could live comfortably. I turned 70. My body finally gave out. I couldn't keep up the pace anymore. I had to quit the law office job. Then Mrs. Rodriguez had to let me go when I threw my back out and couldn't work for 2 weeks. Suddenly, I was down to just Social Security, $1,400 a month. But Grace and Adam still needed their $1,800. So I started using my savings. The little bit I'd managed to scrape together over the decades. $18,000 that was supposed to be my safety net. Within 2 years, it was down to $3,200. I did the math one night. If things continued like this, I'd be completely broke in 18 months. But I couldn't tell Grace. She needed me. Or at least that's what I told myself. Looking back now, I can see all the red flags I ignored. Like the time Grace posted photos on Facebook from a weekend getaway at a beach resort. She and Adam smiling in front of an infinity pool. "When did you go on vacation?" I'd asked her on the phone. "Oh, it was just a little weekend trip. Adam got a bonus at work." A bonus. But somehow they still needed my money for rent that month. Or the time I saw Adam's new iPhone on FaceTime. The latest model. $1,200. "Nice phone," I'd said. "Yeah, I needed an upgrade. My old one was dying." He'd needed an upgrade, but I'd needed to choose between groceries and my electric bill that week, or the time I went to visit them and saw Grace carrying a designer handbag. I recognized the brand because I'd cleaned houses for women who owned them. "That's beautiful," I'd said, pointing to the bag. "Thanks, Adam got it for me. Anniversary present. $800 if I remembered the price correctly. But sure, they were barely surviving. The worst part wasn't the money, though. It was the distance. I invited Grace to my 69th birthday dinner, just the two of us at a small diner. She'd promised to come. "I'll be there, Mom. 6 o'clock right." I got there at 5:45, ordered water and waited. 6 o'clock came and went. 6:30, 7. At 7:15 my phone buzzed. "Sorry, Mom, something came up. We'll reschedule." We never did. When I got the flu and was in bed for a week, I called Grace to let her know. "Mom, I'm really busy at work. I'll try to call you later." She didn't call back for 3 weeks. I had a minor accident. A kid on a bicycle ran into me while I was walking to the bus stop, knocked me down, bruised my hip badly. I called Grace that evening, shaken up. "Oh, well, did you go to the doctor?" "No, I couldn't afford." "Mom, I really can't talk right now. Adam and I are about to watch a movie. Feel better, okay?" She hung up before I could respond. But you know what never stopped the monthly requests for money? Those came like clockwork, the first of every month. "Rent transfer went through right. Utilities payment needs to be done today." I was a bank account to them. Not a mother, not a person. Just a source of income with a pulse. Still, I kept paying. Because I'd raised Grace to depend on me and I didn't know how to stop. And because deep down I was terrified. Terrified that if I stopped giving money, she'd disappear from my life completely. Better to be used than to be alone, right? That's what I told myself every month when I made those transfers. That's what I told myself when I went to bed hungry because I'd spent my grocery money on their electric bill. That's what I told myself when I couldn't afford my own medication but paid for their internet. I told myself I was being a good mother, but really I was just being a fool. And then came October 3rd. The night everything changed. The night my house burned down. It was a Tuesday. October 3rd, 2023. I remember the date because I'd been thinking about my late mother all day. She'd died on October 3rd, 15 years earlier. I'd been feeling melancholy, missing her, wishing she was still around to give me advice about Grace, about life. I went to bed early that night, around 9 o'clock. My little house was quiet. I'd lived there for 30 years, bought it in 1993 with a small inheritance from my father. It wasn't much. A 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house in an older neighborhood. The wiring was ancient. The plumbing was temperamental. But it was mine. The walls held memories. Grace's height marks on the kitchen doorframe. The burn mark on the counter from when she'd tried to make me breakfast in bed at age 8. The window she'd cracked with a softball when she was 12. Every inch of that house held some piece of our life together. I fell asleep thinking about my mother, about Grace, about how much I missed the little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. At 2:47 a.m., I woke up to the smell of smoke. At first, in that foggy space between sleep and waking, I thought I was dreaming. One of those strange dreams that feel real but aren't. But then I coughed, and my eyes started burning. I sat up in bed. Gray smoke was seeping under my bedroom door. My heart started pounding. That primal fear response when your body knows you're in danger before your brain fully understands. I threw off my blankets and ran to the door. When I touched the handle, it was warm. Not hot, just warm, which meant the fire wasn't right outside yet. I opened the door carefully. The hallway was thick with smoke. I could barely see 3 feet in front of me. The smoke detector in the kitchen was screaming. Why hadn't I heard it before I dropped to my hands and knees? Crawled toward the kitchen. The smoke was less dense down here. When I reached the kitchen doorway, I looked up. Flames, orange and angry and alive. They'd started in the wall behind the stove and were spreading across the ceiling. The old wiring, I thought distantly. I'd been meaning to get it checked, but that cost money I didn't have. I couldn't go through the kitchen to the front door. The fire was too big. I crawled backward toward my bedroom, grabbed my phone from the nightstand, pulled the metal box from under my bed, the one with my important documents. Birth certificate, passport, the deed to the house. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I looked around my room. What else? What else could I save? My photo albums were in the closet. Pictures of Grace as a baby, of my mother, of my whole life. I started toward the closet, but the smoke was getting thicker. My lungs were burning. I was coughing so hard I couldn't breathe. Leave. I had to leave. Now. I stumbled to my bedroom window, shoved it open. The screen was stuck. I punched through it with the metal box. I threw the box out first, then my phone. Then I climbed through. I was wearing just my nightgown, no shoes. My feet hit the cold grass of my backyard. I ran around to the front of the house just as my neighbor, Mr. Davidson, came running out of his house. "Hannah, oh my God, are you okay?" I couldn't answer. I was coughing too hard. He wrapped a blanket around me, led me to his porch, called 911. We stood there watching my house burn. The fire trucks came, sirens wailing, lights flashing, men in heavy gear running with hoses. But by then it was too late. The flames had spread to the roof. I watched it collapse inward with a sound like the world breaking. 30 years of memories, gone in 20 minutes. I sat on Mr. Davidson's porch step wrapped in a blanket that smelled like someone else's laundry detergent and cried. Not dramatic crying, just quiet tears running down my face while I stared at the burning shell of my home. A firefighter came over to talk to me, asked me questions. How the fire started, if anyone else was in the house, if I had somewhere to go. "I don't know how it started," I said. "I woke up and there was smoke." "Old wiring," he said gently. "Happens in houses this age. You're lucky you woke up when you did." Lucky. Right. Mr. Davidson let me stay in his guest room that night. His wife Carol gave me some of her clothes to wear. We were about the same size. I didn't sleep. Just lay in their guest bed staring at the ceiling, smelling smoke in my hair. At 7 in the morning I called Grace. My hands were shaking as I dialed. The phone rang 4 times. I almost thought she wouldn't answer. "Mom!" Her voice was groggy, annoyed. "It's 7 in the morning. Grace, honey, there was a fire." Silence. "Grace, did you hear me? My house burned down last night. I lost everything." More silence. Then a sigh. A long, irritated sigh. "What about the insurance? Not are you okay? Not were you hurt? Not thank God you're alive? Just what about the insurance?" I didn't have insurance, Grace. I couldn't afford it." I heard her breath catch, but not with concern, with frustration. "Mom, seriously, how could you not have insurance? I was trying to save money." "Well, that was stupid." Stupid. She called me stupid for not having insurance I couldn't afford because I was giving her $1,800 every month. "Grace, please, I need help. I need somewhere to stay, just for a few days while I figure out what to do." I heard muffled voices. Grace talking to Adam. Their words weren't clear, but the tone was. They were arguing about me. Grace came back to the phone. "Mom, look, this isn't a good time. Grace, please. We barely have enough space for ourselves. Our apartment is tiny. I just need a couch, just for a few days. Please, honey." Another long pause. More muffled conversation. "Fine, you can come, but only for a few days, and you'll have to sleep on the sofa. We don't have a guest room." The sofa I bought them. "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank you so much." "Whatever, we'll see you later." She hung up. I sat there holding the phone, Carol Davidson's sweatpants and t-shirt hanging loose on my body, and felt something crack inside my chest. Mr. Davidson drove me to Grace's apartment that afternoon. He tried to give me money, $200, but I refused. "You've done enough," I told him. "Thank you for everything." He hugged me at the curb outside Grace's building. "You call me if you need anything," he said. "Anything at all." I promised I would. We both knew I wouldn't. I took the elevator up to the 3rd floor, walked down the hallway I'd walked down so many times before. But this time was different. This time I wasn't visiting. I was begging. I knocked on the door. Adam answered. He looked me up and down. No greeting. No, "I'm sorry about your house." No, "Are you okay?" Just that cold assessment. Then he stepped aside. I walked in carrying my one small bag of borrowed clothes and my metal box of documents. Grace was in the kitchen. She didn't turn around when I entered. "Put your stuff in the corner. Try not to make a mess." I stood in the middle of the living room, looking at the sofa I'd bought. The TV I'd paid for, the coffee table, the curtains, the dishes I could see in the kitchen. Every single thing in this apartment I had helped buy, and I wasn't allowed to make a mess. That night I lay on the sofa under a thin blanket Grace had tossed at me. I could hear them in their bedroom, talking, laughing, the TV on. I stared at the ceiling and wondered how I'd gotten here. 70 years old, homeless, lying on a sofa I'd purchased in an apartment I'd been supporting, being treated like an unwanted stray by my own daughter. And that's when I started to realize I had done this to myself. I had taught Grace that I was a resource, not a person. I had taught her that love meant money. I had taught her that she could take and take and take, and I would never stop giving. And she had learned the lesson perfectly. I closed my eyes. Tomorrow I'd start looking for a place to live. Some cheap room somewhere. Maybe I could get a small apartment if I stopped sending Grace money. But even thinking that made me feel guilty. She needed me. Didn't she? I fell asleep with that question circling my mind. I had no idea that in just 3 more days I'd overhear a conversation that would change everything. Day 1 at Grace's apartment started at 6 in the morning. I woke up to the sound of footsteps. My neck ached from the sofa cushions. The blanket had slipped off during the night, and I was cold. Grace walked past me to the kitchen. She didn't say good morning, didn't ask if I'd slept okay. Just opened the refrigerator and pulled out a carton of orange juice. I sat up slowly. My back protested every movement. "Good morning, honey." She glanced at me, barely. "Morning." I stood up, folded the blanket neatly. "I thought I'd make us some coffee, maybe breakfast." "I've got it covered." I watched her move around the kitchen. My kitchen, really. I'd bought that coffee maker 2 Christmases ago. Those plates she was pulling from the cupboard, I'd given her a whole set when she first moved in. The refrigerator humming in the corner, $1,200 when their old one died. "Can I help with anything?" "Mom, just sit down, okay?" I sat. Adam came out a few minutes later, 8 o'clock. He was wearing boxer shorts and a t-shirt. He walked right past me like I was invisible, poured himself coffee, went back to the bedroom. Not a word, not a glance. Grace made herself scrambled eggs and toast. The smell filled the apartment. My stomach growled quietly. She sat at the small dining table with her plate, scrolled through her phone while she ate. I waited. Surely she'd offer me something. We were family. She finished eating, put her plate in the sink, started getting ready for work. "Grace, is it okay if I make myself some breakfast?" She paused at the bathroom door. "Sure, whatever. Just don't use all the eggs. Adam will want some later." There were 6 eggs left in the carton. I took one. I made 1 piece of toast, used a tiny bit of butter. I ate standing at the counter, trying to be as unobtrusive as possible. Grace left for work at 9. "I'll be back around 6. Try not to make too much noise. Adam's working from home today." The door closed behind her. I washed my single plate, my single fork, wiped down the counter until it gleamed. Adam emerged from the bedroom at 10:30. He walked into the kitchen, saw me sitting quietly on the sofa, and frowned. "You're still here." It wasn't a question. It was almost an accusation. "Yes. Grace said I could stay for a few days." He grunted, made himself 3 eggs and 4 pieces of toast, ate at the table while watching something on his phone, laughed at whatever he was seeing, never once looked at me. When he was done, he left his dishes in the sink and went back to the bedroom, closed the door. I sat on that sofa for hours. I was afraid to turn on the TV, afraid to move, afraid to exist too loudly in this space where I clearly wasn't wanted. Around 2 in the afternoon, I went to the bathroom. When I came out, I passed their bedroom. The door was open a crack. Adam was on a video call, gaming with someone. "Dude, that was sick. Did you see that headshot?" He was laughing, relaxed, having fun. But when I'd asked if I could make breakfast, he'd acted like I was the biggest inconvenience in the world. I went back to the sofa, sat with my hands folded in my lap. This was going to be a long few days. Day 2 wasn't any better. Grace came home from work at 6:15. She was carrying takeout bags from a Thai restaurant. The smell of pad Thai and curry filled the apartment. My mouth watered. I'd eaten a granola bar for lunch, one I'd found in my borrowed bag from Mr. Davidson's wife. "Oh, that smells wonderful," I said. Grace set the bags on the counter. Adam came out of the bedroom. "Finally, I'm starving," he said. They unpacked the food. 4 containers, 2 plates. They sat at the table and started eating. I waited. Maybe they'd offer. Maybe they just forgot to get a 3rd plate. But they didn't forget. They just didn't care. They ate and talked about their day. About a coworker Grace didn't like. About some game Adam was playing. I sat on the sofa 10 feet away and watched them eat the dinner I could smell but couldn't have. When they were done, Grace looked over at me. "There's some crackers in the cupboard if you're hungry." Crackers, while they ate $25 worth of Thai food. "Thank you," I said quietly. I ate 6 crackers and drank tap water for dinner that night. Later around 9, I tried to talk to Grace. She was on the sofa scrolling through her phone. Adam was back in the bedroom. "Grace, honey, I need to talk to you about finding a place." She didn't look up from her phone. I was thinking maybe I could find a room to rent, something cheap, but I'd need to stay here maybe a week or 2 while I look." Now she looked up, and I saw it in her eyes. Irritation, frustration. "Mom, we already talked about this. A few days. Not a week, not 2 weeks." "But honey, I lost everything. I need time to—" "You're 70 years old. Don't you have retirement savings? Social Security?" I stared at her. Did she really not understand? Did she really not know that I'd been giving her more than my entire Social Security check every month? "Grace, my savings are mostly gone, and my Social Security goes to—" I stopped myself. I was about to say goes to you. But something in her face made me stop. A hardness, a coldness I'd never seen directed at me before. "Goes to what, Mom?" "Nothing. Never mind." She went back to her phone. "Well, you'll figure something out. You always do." I sat there for a moment longer. Then I went back to my corner of the sofa. My corner, in the apartment I paid for. That night I lay awake listening to Grace and Adam watch a movie in their bedroom. I could hear them laughing. Could hear the dialogue from whatever they were watching. Normal. Happy. Comfortable. While I lay on their sofa hungry and homeless, wondering how I'd raised a daughter who could be so cold. Day 3 was when I'd had enough. I woke up determined. Today I would talk to Grace about staying longer. Really talk to her. Make her understand. She was my daughter. She'd help me. She had to. Grace came home from work at 6. I'd been rehearsing what to say all afternoon. "Grace, sweetheart, I need to talk to you." She dropped her purse on the table with a heavy sigh. "What is it now? Now?" Like I was always bothering her. "I need to stay here a bit longer, just until I find a room somewhere. A small place. I'm looking, I promise, but I need time." Grace closed her eyes, like she was summoning patience. "Mom, I already told you. We don't have space. But I have nowhere else to go. The house is gone. Everything is gone." "What about your friend's family?" "You're my family, Grace." She looked at me then, really looked at me, and what I saw in her eyes made my blood run cold. There was no compassion, no love, no daughter seeing her mother in need, just annoyance. "Mom, you've always been like this." "Like what? Always expecting other people to solve your problems." I felt like she'd slapped me. "My problems, Grace. I didn't choose for my house to burn down." "No, but you chose not to have insurance. You chose to live in a house with old wiring. You chose not to plan better for your retirement." Each word was a knife. "I've been helping you," I said quietly. "For 8 years, I've been helping you. And we appreciate it. But that was your choice, Mom. We didn't force you." Your choice. Like I'd done it for fun. Like I hadn't sacrificed everything. I stood up. My hands were shaking. "I see. Do you? Because sometimes I don't think you see how hard things are for us, too. We're struggling. We're barely making it. And now we have you here adding to our stress." I walked to the bathroom, closed the door, sat on the edge of the tub and cried as quietly as I could. When I came out 15 minutes later, Grace and Adam had ordered pizza. They didn't offer me any. I went to bed that night, if you could call the sofa a bed, hungry and heartbroken. But I still didn't understand the full truth. Not yet. That would come tomorrow. Day 4, Friday, October 7th. The day everything changed. Grace came home from work around 7. She'd stopped at the mall. I could see the shopping bags. I was sitting on the sofa with a book I'd found on their shelf. Some thriller I wasn't really reading, just staring at the pages to look occupied. Grace went straight to her bedroom. Didn't say hello. Didn't acknowledge me. I heard her on the phone a few minutes later. The bedroom door was cracked open. Her voice carried. At first I tried not to listen. It wasn't my business. But then I heard my name. Yeah, she's still here. I froze. I don't know when she's leaving. Grace's voice was tired, frustrated. It's exhausting, honestly. Adam is so over it. My heart started pounding. No, we can't just kick her out. She's my mother. But God, I can't wait for her to find somewhere else to go. There was a pause. She was listening to whoever was on the other end. Her friend Melissa, probably. I know it sounds bad, but it's the truth. Another pause. Then Grace laughed. A dry, bitter laugh. I mean, it's enough that she sends us her Social Security check every month, right? The book fell from my hands. Yeah, of course. $1,400. It pays almost all our rent. That's honestly the only reason we're still putting up with having her here. I couldn't breathe. Melissa, if it weren't for that check, it wouldn't even be worth having her around. Time stopped. The words echoed in my head. It wouldn't even be worth having her around. I sat frozen on that sofa. My whole body had gone numb. Grace kept talking. I know, but what am I supposed to do? She's my mom. I can't just abandon her. But God, she's so needy. Always has been. Needy. I'd worked 3 jobs to raise her. I'd given her everything I had. I'd sacrificed my retirement, my health, my future. And I was needy. Ryan says the same thing. She meant Adam. Adam's middle name was Ryan. He's like, if your mom didn't have that money coming in, I wouldn't want her here at all. And I get it. I really do. My hands were shaking. The book had fallen to the floor, but I couldn't pick it up. Couldn't move. Anyway, I should go. Adam and I are going to watch a movie. Yeah, talk soon. Love you too. She hung up. I heard her moving around the bedroom. Heard Adam say something. Heard them both laugh. And I just sat there. In the apartment I paid for. On the sofa I bought. Underneath the roof I kept over their heads. Not a mother. Not a person. Just a monthly direct deposit. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the sofa staring at the ceiling, watching the shadows from the streetlight outside move across the paint, playing Grace's words over and over in my head. If it weren't for that check, it wouldn't even be worth having her around. At 2 a.m, I started doing math in my head. 8 years, 12 months a year, 96 months. The first 2 years I'd sent them $2,000 a month. That's $48,000. Years 3 and 4 they'd needed $2,200 a month. That's $52,800. Years 5 and 6, $2,300 a month. $55,200. The last 2 years, $2,400 a month. $57,600. Total $213,600. Over $200,000. That was my retirement. That was my security. That was 30 years of saving $5 here, $10 there. And what did I get in return? A sofa to sleep on, crackers for dinner, and the knowledge that I wasn't worth keeping around. At 3 a.m, I got up, went to the bathroom, looked at myself in the mirror. An old woman looked back. 70 years old, gray hair, wrinkles around my eyes, hands rough from decades of cleaning other people's houses. But my eyes weren't defeated. Not anymore. They were angry. I whispered to my reflection, I deserve more than this. And for the first time in 8 years, I believed it. The next morning, Saturday, I woke up before Grace and Adam. The apartment was quiet. I made coffee, not for them, for me. I sat at their kitchen table, my table, the one I'd helped them buy, and I made a plan. First, I needed help. Real help, not from Grace. I scrolled through my phone contacts. Most of them were old clients from my cleaning days. People I'd worked for but didn't really know. Then I saw it. Sharon Wallace. Sharon and I had grown up together in the same neighborhood. We'd been best friends from age 6 to 18. Then life had pulled us apart. She'd moved to Montana 15 years ago for a job. We still texted on holidays. Nothing deep, just Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. But she was good people. Always had been. It was 6 a.m, too early to call. So I texted, Sharon, it's Hannah. I'm sorry to reach out like this, but I'm in trouble. Can we talk today? I really need advice. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Grace and Adam got up around 9. They moved around the apartment like I wasn't there, made breakfast, ate, watched TV. I sat in my corner of the sofa and waited for Sharon to respond. At 10:30, my phone buzzed. 3 messages from Sharon. Hannah, of course we can talk. Call me anytime. I'm here for you. Whatever you need. Seriously, call me. Now if you want. I looked at Grace. She was laughing at something on TV. Adam had his arm around her. I stood up. I'm going to take a walk. Neither of them responded. I went outside. Found a bench 2 blocks away. Called Sharon. She answered on the second ring. Hannah, talk to me. What's going on? And I told her everything. The fire, losing my house, Grace's reaction, the 4 days on the sofa, the conversation I'd overheard. By the time I finished, I was crying. Sharon didn't interrupt once. She just let me talk. When I finally went quiet, she spoke. Her voice was firm, clear, steady. Hannah, listen to me very carefully. You need to leave, today. But I have nowhere. You have here, Montana, my house. I have a spare bedroom. It's yours, as long as you need it. Sharon, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. No, I'm insisting. You're my friend, and friends don't let friends get treated like garbage by their own children. But the bus ticket alone is probably, I'll pay for it. I'll Venmo you money right now. You get on a bus today. You come here. You're safe here. I closed my eyes. Tears were streaming down my face. Why are you doing this? Because 20 years ago when my mom died and I couldn't afford to go to the funeral, you sent me $500. Remember that? I did remember. It was money I didn't have, but Sharon had needed it. You told me that's what friends do. So now I'm telling you the same thing. That's what friends do. We show up. I don't know what to say. Say you'll come. Say you'll get on that bus today. I thought about Grace, about the apartment I'd been supporting, about 8 years of sacrifice, about being called needy by the daughter I'd raised alone. Okay, I whispered. I'll come. Good. Now listen. Before you leave, I want you to do something. What, yo? Call your bank. Cancel every automatic transfer to Grace, every single one, today. My breath caught. Sharon, I don't know if I can. Yes, you can, and you will. Because you don't owe them anything, Hannah. You've paid your dues. You've been more than generous. Now it's time to save yourself. She was right. I knew she was right. Okay. Say it again. I need to hear you commit. I'll cancel the transfers. Good. Now go pack your things. Book a bus ticket. Text me the details. I'll be waiting at the station in Bozeman whenever you arrive. Thank you, I said. My voice broke. Thank you so much. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you're here and safe and starting over. Now go. Get out of there. I hung up. Sat on that bench for 5 more minutes. Then I made the call. I dialed my bank's customer service number, listened to the automated menu, pressed buttons until I got a real person. First National Bank, this is Derek speaking. How may I help you today? His voice was young, cheerful, like he'd never had his life fall apart. Hi, Derek. I need to cancel some automatic transfers. I can help you with that. Can I have your account number, please? I gave it to him. He verified my identity with my social security number and address. Thank you, Mrs. Peterson. What transfers would you like to cancel? I took a deep breath. All of them. Every transfer going to Grace Miller and Adam Miller. All of them. Keyboard clicking. A pause. Ma'am, I'm showing you have multiple recurring transfers set up to those accounts. Are you sure you want to cancel all of them? I'm completely sure. Just to confirm, once canceled, you would need to set these up again manually if you change your mind. Is that understood? I understand. Cancel them. All of them. Today. More clicking. Another pause. Okay, I've submitted the cancellation. The changes will be effective immediately. Is there anything else I can help you with today? No, that's everything. Thank you. You're welcome, Mrs. Peterson. Have a great day. I hung up, looked at my phone, at the call log showing First National Bank 000347, 3 minutes and 47 seconds. That's all it took to change everything. I felt strange, light, like I'd been carrying a 100-pound weight and someone had just lifted it off my shoulders. Then I felt scared. What had I just done? I'd cut off my daughter, my only child, the person I'd devoted my entire life to raising. But then I remembered her voice on the phone. If it weren't for that check, it wouldn't even be worth having her around. The fear hardened into something else. Determination. I walked back to the apartment. Grace and Adam were still on the sofa, still watching TV. "Where'd you go?" Grace asked without looking at me. "Just needed some air." I went to my corner, the small space where I'd been living for 4 days. I didn't have much. The clothes Mr. Davidson's wife had lent me, my metal box of documents, my phone. That was it. That was everything I owned in the world. I could fit my entire life in a plastic grocery bag. I pulled out my phone, looked up bus schedules from here to Bozeman, Montana. There was one leaving at 7 p.m., 12 hours, arrived tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., $85. I booked it with the last credit card I had, the one I'd been saving for emergencies. If this wasn't an emergency, what was confirmation email arrived? Ticket purchased. I texted Sharon, "Bus leaves at 7 p.m. tonight. Arrives 7 a.m. tomorrow. Thank you." Her response was immediate. "I'll be there. You're doing the right thing. Proud of you." Now I just had to wait. The afternoon crawled by. Grace and Adam ordered pizza for lunch. Didn't offer me any. I pretended not to care. Around 3, Grace announced they were going to the mall. "We'll be back around 6, she said. "Okay." The door closed behind them. I was alone in the apartment. I stood up, looked around. This place had been my financial burden for 8 years. Every piece of furniture held a memory of sacrifice. The sofa bought when they'd complained their old one was uncomfortable, $1,800. The TV purchased when they'd said watching movies together was the only entertainment they could afford, $600. The coffee table, a birthday present for Grace, $400. The dishes in the cupboard, the towels in the bathroom, the sheets on their bed, all of it. I'd helped pay for all of it. And they'd let me sleep on the sofa without a blanket that first night. I went to the kitchen table, found a piece of paper and a pen in the drawer. I sat down and wrote, "Grace, I'm leaving. Not because you're kicking me out, but because I finally understand that I don't have to stay where I'm not wanted. For 8 years, I gave you everything I had. I worked past retirement age. I sent you money I needed for myself. I did this because I loved you. When I lost my home and asked for help, you made me feel like a burden. You let me sleep on a sofa I bought in an apartment I've been supporting. Then I heard you on the phone. I heard what I really am to you, a monthly check. You said if I didn't have that money, I wouldn't be worth keeping around. Those words broke something in me that can't be fixed with apologies. I've canceled all the automatic transfers, every single one. Starting today. You're 31 years old, Grace. Adam is 33. You're adults. It's time to live like adults. Don't contact me. I need time to heal from what you've done. Mom." I read it 3 times. Changed "love you" at the end to just Mom. They needed to understand. This wasn't a tantrum. This was a boundary. I left the note on the kitchen table where they'd see it when they got home. Then I sat on that sofa one last time and waited for 6:30. At 6:15, I heard keys in the door. My heart jumped into my throat. They were home early. Grace walked in carrying shopping bags. She saw me sitting there with my plastic bag of belongings. "What's that?" She pointed at my bag. "Just organizing." I lied. She shrugged, went to her bedroom with her shopping bags. I waited 10 more minutes. My hands were sweating. At 6:30, I stood up. "I'm going for a walk," I called out. "Okay." Grace's voice came from the bedroom. I picked up my bag, walked to the door, paused with my hand on the handle. This was it. Once I walked out this door, everything would change. I thought about going back, about staying, about continuing to give and give and give. Then I heard Grace laugh at something Adam said. They were happy, comfortable, not worried about the 70-year-old woman on their sofa. Why would they worry Mom always came through? Mom always paid. Not anymore. I opened the door, walked out, let it close softly behind me, took the elevator down, walked out to the street. The bus station was 6 blocks away. I walked slowly, carrying everything I owned in a grocery bag. An old woman, alone, with nothing. But I'd never felt more powerful in my life. The bus station smelled like stale coffee and cleaning products. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Rows of plastic chairs bolted to the floor. I'd been in nicer places, but I'd also been in worse. I checked in at the counter. The woman behind the desk barely looked at me. "Bozeman, Montana. One way." "That's the 7 o'clock to Salt Lake City, then transfer to Bozeman. Arrives tomorrow at 7:05 a.m. That's the one. She printed my ticket, handed it to me. I found a seat near my gate, put my grocery bag on the chair next to me, and I waited. At 6:50, people started lining up to board. I stood, got in line. That's when my phone started ringing. Grace. I looked at the screen. Let it ring. Sent it to voicemail. It rang again immediately. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. A text came through, Mom, where are you? Another text. Mom, answer the phone. Another, Mom, this is ridiculous. The line moved forward. I showed my ticket to the driver, climbed the steps onto the bus, found a seat by the window, put my bag on the floor. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Call, text, call. At 7 p.m. exactly, the bus pulled out of the station. I watched the city lights fade as we headed toward the highway. My phone kept ringing. I finally turned it off completely. And as we hit the interstate, I started to cry. Not sad tears, not regret, relief. Pure, overwhelming relief. I was free. The bus ride was long. 12 hours through the night. We stopped twice for bathroom breaks and driver changes. I slept in fits and starts. My head against the window, my jacket balled up as a pillow. Every time I woke up, I felt a little lighter. Dawn broke somewhere in Idaho. Pink and gold spreading across the horizon. I watched the sunrise through the bus window and thought about my mother. She'd been a strong woman, raised 3 kids mostly on her own. My father had been there, but he'd worked construction and was gone more than he was home. Mom had always told me, Hannah, don't let people treat you like a doormat. You teach people how to treat you. I'd forgotten that lesson, but I was remembering it now. At 7:05 a.m., the bus pulled into the Bozeman station. I gathered my bag, stepped off into the crisp Montana morning, and there she was, Sharon Wallace, 15 years older than the last time I'd seen her in person, gray in her hair now, laugh lines around her eyes, but the same warm smile. She was holding a sign that said, Welcome home, Hannah. I walked toward her, started crying again. She dropped the sign and hugged me. You're safe now, she whispered. You're home. Sharon's house was a small 2-bedroom in the outskirts of Bozeman, wood siding painted blue, a front porch with a swing, flower boxes in the windows. It looked like a postcard. It's not much, Sharon said as she unlocked the door, but it's peaceful. We walked inside. It smelled like coffee and something baking. Did you bake? I asked. Cinnamon rolls. Figured you could use some comfort food. The house was cozy, lived in. Photos on the walls, a cat sleeping on the back of the couch. That's Winston, Sharon said. Don't mind him. He's lazy but friendly. She showed me to the spare bedroom. It was small, a single bed with a patchwork quilt, a nightstand with a lamp, a window looking out on the backyard. It was my son's room, Sharon said, but he's at college in Seattle now, so it's all yours, as long as you need it. I set my grocery bag down, looked at the room, at the clean sheets, at the privacy, at the kindness. Sharon, I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to. Just rest, heal, figure out your next step. No rush. She left me alone to unpack. I sat on the bed, looked around the room. This was it. This was my new life. Starting over at 70 years old with nothing but borrowed clothes and a friend's charity. But you know what? It was better than that sofa. It was better than being invisible. It was better than being worth less than a monthly check. I lay back on the bed, stared at the ceiling, and for the first time in 8 years I felt like I could breathe. I slept for 14 hours straight. When I woke up, it was Monday morning. Light was streaming through the window. I could hear birds outside. For a moment I forgot where I was. Then it all came back. The fire, Grace, the bus, Montana. I sat up slowly. My body ached from the long bus ride. There was a note slipped under my door. Morning, sleepyhead. I'm at work. I teach at the elementary school. Make yourself at home. Coffee's in the pot. Food in the fridge. Mi casa es su casa. Back at 3:30. S. I smiled, picked up the note, folded it carefully and put it on the nightstand. Downstairs I found the coffee pot. Poured myself a cup. It was still warm. Sharon must have made it fresh before she left. I sat at her kitchen table and turned on my phone for the first time since the bus station. 73 notifications. Missed calls, 51. Text messages, 22. All from Grace. A few from Adam. I scrolled through them. The first ones were demanding, "Mom, where are you? Mom, answer your phone now. This is ridiculous. You can't just leave." The middle ones were angry. "We just saw your note. You canceled the transfers, seriously. How could you do this to us? We needed that money. The rent is due in 3 days and we don't have it." The last ones were desperate. "Mom, please. We're sorry. Can we talk about this? Please call me back. We're going to lose the apartment." I read through all of them. Felt nothing. Maybe I should have felt guilty, or sad, or worried. But I just felt numb. They'd made their choice when they laughed while I lost my house, when they let me sleep on a sofa and eat crackers, when Grace said I wasn't worth keeping around. Now they were dealing with the consequences. I deleted all the messages, all the voicemails. Then I blocked both their numbers. Sharon came home at 3:30 just like she'd said. She had grocery bags. "Went shopping on my lunch break. Figured we should stock up. You have any dietary restrictions I should know about?" "No, I eat anything." "Good, because I'm making pot roast tonight. My grandmother's recipe." We cooked together. It felt normal, easy, like we hadn't been apart for 15 years. Over dinner, Sharon asked, "Have you heard from Grace? 51 calls, 22 texts." What'd they say? The usual progression. Anger, then panic, then desperation. "You gonna respond?" I cut a piece of pot roast. "No, not yet. Maybe not ever. I don't know." Sharon nodded. "That's fair. You don't owe them anything, especially not an explanation. They're going to lose their apartment. Let them. They're adults. They'll figure it out." "But Hannah," Sharon put down her fork, looked at me seriously. "You spent 8 years sacrificing everything for them, and they treated you like garbage. You don't have to feel bad about protecting yourself now." She was right. I knew she was right. But 31 years of being Grace's mother didn't just shut off overnight. That night, lying in bed in Sharon's spare room, I thought about my daughter, wondered if she was okay, if she'd found a way to pay rent, if she was scared. Then I remembered her laugh when I'd asked for help, and I rolled over and went to sleep. My first week in Montana passed in a blur of small kindnesses. Sharon took me shopping at Goodwill, helped me buy real clothes. 3 pairs of jeans, 5 shirts, a warm jacket, 2 pairs of shoes. Total cost $83. She insisted on paying half. Her neighbor Maria Ortiz came over with a casserole on day 3. "Sharon told me you've had a rough time," she said. She was 80 years old with kind eyes and hands twisted from arthritis. "I wanted to bring you something homemade. Welcome to the neighborhood." We sat at Sharon's kitchen table and Maria told me her story. "I had a daughter who treated me like an ATM too," she said. "For 12 years I gave her everything. Then one day I cut her off. Haven't spoken to her in 15 years. "Do you regret it?" I asked. Maria thought for a moment. "I regret that she was the kind of person who would abandon her mother over money, but I don't regret choosing myself. You can't pour from an empty cup, Hannah." On day 4, Sharon took me to meet her friend, a lawyer named Thomas Wright. His office was small, on Main Street above a bakery. The smell of fresh bread drifted up through the floorboards. Thomas was in his 50s, glasses, kind face. He shook my hand warmly. "Sharon's told me a bit about your situation. I'm sorry for what you've been through." I sat across from his desk, hands folded in my lap, trying not to feel embarrassed about needing legal help at my age. "I don't know if there's anything I can do," I started. "I don't have much money for a lawyer." Thomas held up a hand. "Let's not worry about money right now. Tell me what happened." "All of it." So I did. I told him about the 8 years of payments, about the fire, about Grace's rejection, about the conversation I'd overheard. He took notes, asked questions. His face remained neutral but professional. When I finished, he sat back in his chair. "Mrs. Peterson, what you're describing is financial exploitation. It's more common than you might think, especially with elderly parents." "I'm not elderly," I said automatically. He smiled gently. "You're 70. In legal terms, that qualifies. And it also means you have certain protections under the law. But I gave them the money willingly. There was no contract, no written agreement." "That's true. And that makes recovering the money very difficult. Voluntary gifts are hard to reclaim." He leaned forward. But that's not really what you want, is it, Om? I thought about that. Did I want the money back? No, I said slowly. I just want them to leave me alone. I want peace. That I can help you with. Thomas explained my options. A cease and desist letter. Legal documentation establishing that I owed Grace and Adam nothing going forward. If they continued to harass me, we could seek a restraining order. How much will this cost? My normal retainer for a case like this is $1,500. He saw my face fall. But Sharon vouched for you, and I believe in helping people who need it. Pay me $500 now. We'll work out a payment plan for the rest. I only have about $300 in my account. Then pay me $300. We'll figure out the rest later. I almost cried. Why are you being so kind to me? Thomas smiled. Because my grandmother was in a similar situation 20 years ago. A lawyer helped her pro bono. I'm just paying it forward. I wrote him a check for $300. It left me with $47.13 to my name. But it was worth it. Over the next week, Thomas and I worked together on the cease and desist letter. He had me document everything. I printed bank statements from the library computer. 8 years of transfers. Every single one. We added them up together. Year 1 and 2, $2,000 per month times 24 months equals $48,000. Year 3 and 4, $2,200 per month times 24 months equals $52,800. Year 5 and 6, $2,300 per month times 24 months equals $55,200. Year 7 and 8, $2,400 per month times 20 months equals $48,000. Total $204,000. I stared at the number on the paper. $204,000. Is that right? I whispered. Thomas checked the math again. It's right. I'd given my daughter over $200,000 in 8 years. That was more than some people made in 5 years of full-time work. I sat back in the chair, put my hand over my mouth. Thomas waited patiently. I was so stupid, I finally said. You weren't stupid. You were generous. There's a difference. Generous people don't end up homeless. No, but people who are taken advantage of sometimes do. We finished the letter. Thomas read it aloud to me. It was formal, legal. It listed every transfer, included copies of my bank statements, stated clearly that all financial support had ended permanently. The final paragraph said, Ms. Miller and Mr. Miller, you are hereby notified to cease all contact with Mrs. Hannah Peterson. Any further harassment will result in legal action, including but not limited to restraining orders and civil suits. This matter is now closed. What do you think? Thomas asked. I think it's perfect. We sent it certified mail. Signature required. Grace and Adam would get it in 3 days. While I waited for Grace's response to the letter, something unexpected happened. I started to build a life. Sharon got me a job at the elementary school where she taught. Just 2 days a week. I'd help in the library, shelving books, reading to the kindergartners. Simple work. It paid $200 a month. Not much, but it was mine. The kids were sweet. They didn't care that I was old or poor or had a daughter who didn't want me. They just cared that I did the voices when I read Where the Wild Things Are. One little girl, Sophie, reminded me of Grace at that age. Same dark curls, same bright eyes. She climbed into my lap during story time one day. You smell like cookies, she said. I'd helped Sharon bake that morning. The scent must have clung to my sweater. Do I? I smiled. Mm-hmm. My grandma smells like cookies, too. Something in my chest cracked a little. I hadn't thought of myself as someone's grandma. Grace had never had children, never seemed to want them. But this little girl who didn't know my story had just reminded me what I was missing. After work, I started walking around Bozeman. It was a small town, friendly. People said hello when you passed them on the street. I joined a book club at the library. 6 women all over 60. They met every Thursday evening. At my first meeting, they were discussing Where the Crawdads Sing. What did you think, Hannah? Asked Diane, a retired nurse. I related to Kaya, I said. Being abandoned, learning to survive alone. The women nodded. They understood. Over coffee after book club, they shared their stories. Diane's son had stolen her savings. $40,000. Forged her signature. She'd pressed charges but never got the money back. Betty's daughter hadn't spoken to her in 6 years. Some argument about an inheritance. Betty couldn't even remember what had started it. Susan saw her grandchildren once a year if she was lucky. Her daughter-in-law had decided Susan was too negative to be around the kids. We were all mothers who'd been abandoned in different ways, but we'd found each other. 3 weeks into my new life, Grace's response to the letter arrived. Thomas called me at Sharon's house. Hannah, Grace's lawyer, contacted me. My stomach dropped. She has a lawyer, a public defender. She filed for mediation, says she wants to apologize, wants to discuss family reconciliation. I sat down hard on Sharon's couch. What does that mean? It means she wants to meet, face to face, talk things out. I don't want to talk to her. I understand, but Hannah, I think you should hear her out. Why? Because you'll always wonder what she had to say if you don't. Because this is a chance for closure. Because you can set the terms my office may present 1 hour limit. You don't commit to anything. You just listen. I closed my eyes. When a Friday, 2 p.m., if you're ready. Was I ready to see my daughter, to look her in the eye after everything? I'll be there. Friday came too fast and too slow at the same time. I dressed carefully. A nice blouse Sharon had bought me, clean jeans, my hair combed neatly. Sharon offered to come with me. Sit in the waiting room. I need to do this alone, I told her. You're braver than you think, she said. I didn't feel brave. I felt terrified. Thomas's office was on the 2nd floor. I climbed the stairs slowly. Each step felt like walking towards something I couldn't take back. Thomas met me at the door. You okay? No, but I'm here. We went into the conference room. Small table, 6 chairs, window overlooking Main Street. I sat, put my hands in my lap to keep them from shaking. At exactly 2 p.m., footsteps on the stairs. The door opened. Grace walked in first. I almost didn't recognize her. She'd lost weight. Too much weight. Her cheeks were hollow. Dark circles under her eyes. Her clothes hung loose on her frame. Behind her, Adam looked worse. Unshaven. Worn. Defeated. They both looked like they'd aged 5 years in 3 weeks. Grace saw me. Our eyes met. She started crying immediately. Mom! Just that one word. Broken. Raw. Thomas cleared his throat. Please sit down. This is an informal mediation. I'm here as Mrs. Peterson's legal counsel and as a neutral party. Grace, you requested this meeting. Please proceed. Grace sat across from me. Adam sat beside her. She tried to speak, choked on the words, tried again. Mom, I don't know where to start. I said nothing, just looked at her. She wiped her eyes. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The words hung in the air. I'm sorry I didn't help you when your house burned down. I'm sorry I let you sleep on the couch. I'm sorry I said those terrible things. Tears were running down her face now. I'm sorry I used you for money. You were right about everything in your letter. Adam spoke up. His voice was rough. Mrs. Peterson, I owe you an apology too. I was disrespectful, ungrateful. When you needed help, I laughed. I'm ashamed of that. Grace continued. When you left and we got your letter, everything fell apart. Tell me, I said. My first words. Grace wiped her nose. The rent was due. We didn't have it. We tried to borrow from friends, from Adam's parents. Nobody would help us. We got evicted, Adam added quietly. We had to sell everything. The TV, the furniture, everything. We got maybe $2,000 for all of it. Moved into a studio apartment across town. Grace's voice broke. It's tiny. It's all we could afford. We're both working 2 jobs now, Adam said. I'm at a warehouse during the day, deliver food at night. Grace is at the store plus waitressing. Grace nodded. We're working 60, 70 hours a week, and we're still barely making rent. I listened, felt nothing. They were describing the life I'd lived for 40 years. Multiple jobs, barely making rent, exhausted all the time. Welcome to reality. Grace looked at me. Mom, every day I realize what you did for us. How hard you worked, how much you sacrificed. And you didn't realize it before. She flinched. No, I didn't. I took it for granted. I thought you were supposed to help us. Because you're our mom. Supposed to, I repeated. I know how that sounds now. I know how entitled and horrible that is. Do you? I leaned forward. Do you really know? I think so. Then tell me, Grace. Tell me what you realize now. She swallowed hard. I realize that you gave us everything and we gave you nothing. I realize that we treated you like a monthly check, I finished. That's what you said. Remember you said if I didn't have that check, I wouldn't be worth keeping around. Grace closed her eyes. Fresh tears spilled down. You heard that. Every word. Mom, I didn't mean… Yes, you did. My voice was steady, cold. You meant exactly what you said, because if you didn't mean it, you wouldn't have said it. Silence. Thomas spoke gently. Mrs. Peterson, what would you need to see from Grace to even consider reconciliation? I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. Part of me wanted to forgive her right now, to hug her, to tell her everything would be okay. That's what mothers do, right? But I'd spent 70 years being that kind of mother, and it had nearly destroyed me. I would need to see real change, I said. Not words, actions. What kind of actions? Grace asked desperately. I need to see you live without my money for at least a year. I need to see you take responsibility for your own lives. I need to see that you can want me in your life without needing my wallet. We can do that, Grace said quickly. We are doing that. We're working, we're budgeting. For 3 weeks, I interrupted. You've been doing it for 3 weeks. That's not change. That's just desperation. The truth of it hit her. I could see it in her face. You're right, she whispered. Adam spoke up. Mrs. Peterson, what if we update you monthly? Show you we're really trying. Would that help? I thought about it. Maybe, but here's what I need you to understand. Even if you change, even if you prove yourselves, our relationship will never be what it was. Grace's face crumpled. Never, never, I confirmed. Because what it was wasn't healthy. It wasn't a real relationship. It was codependency. It was me giving and you taking. And I won't go back to that. What would you want it to be? Grace asked. I don't know yet. Something new. Something built on mutual respect instead of need. Something where I'm a person, not a resource. Thomas interjected. I'd like to suggest a formal agreement. Grace and Adam commit to no contact asking for money for 12 months. They send monthly email updates. Brief, factual. No drama. After 12 months, if Hannah sees real change, they can discuss rebuilding the relationship. If the terms are violated, Hannah proceeds with legal action. Does that work for everyone? Grace and Adam looked at each other, nodded. Yes, Grace said. We'll do it. I looked at Thomas. He was giving me a questioning look. Was I ready for this? Ready to give them a chance. I thought about the little girl who used to draw me pictures, who used to sleep on my chest. She was still in there somewhere, under all the entitlement and selfishness. Maybe. Okay, I said. 12 months. But Grace, I need you to understand something. What, Mo? This is your only chance. If you mess this up, I'm done. Permanently. No more chances. No more forgiveness. Do you understand? She nodded, crying. I understand. Say it. This is my only chance. If I mess up, you're done with me. Good. Thomas drafted the agreement right there. 2 pages. Simple terms. We all signed it. Grace stood, looked at me hopefully. Can I hug you? I stood too, looked at my daughter. 3 weeks ago she'd laughed when I asked for help. No, I said. Not yet. Her face fell, but she nodded. Okay, I understand. They left. Thomas and I sat in silence for a moment. How do you feel? He asked. I don't know. Empty, sad, but also strong. You should feel strong. You just set boundaries most people never manage. I left his office and walked to the coffee shop where Sharon was waiting. She looked up when I came in. How'd it go? I sat down. I gave them a year to prove they've changed. And if they don't, then I'm done. And I'll be okay with that. Sharon squeezed my hand. Look at you, standing up for yourself. It's harder than I thought it would be. The right thing usually is. The months that followed were strange. I built my life in Montana. Sharon and I fell into an easy routine. Coffee in the mornings. I'd work at the school. She'd teach. We'd make dinner together, watch Jeopardy, go to book club. It was simple, quiet, peaceful, and every month an email from Grace would arrive. Month 1, Mom. Adam and I both got second jobs. I'm waitressing at a diner 4 nights a week. Adam does food delivery after his warehouse shift. It's exhausting, but we're managing. We paid rent on time this month. First time in years we did it without your help. Just wanted you to know. Grace. I read it twice. Didn't respond. Month 2. We opened a savings account. Put $50 in it this week. I know that's not much, but it's something. We've never had savings before. Also, we're taking a budgeting class at the community center. Learning things I should have learned years ago. Grace. Better. I sent back one word. Good. Month 3. Mom, I started volunteering at a women's shelter. There's a single mom there, Sandra. She's 38, working 2 jobs, raising a 10-year-old alone. I've been babysitting for her so she can rest. No charge. Just helping. I think I'm starting to understand what you went through. Grace. That one made me cry. I responded, I'm proud of you for helping her. Month 4. Adam and I started couples therapy. We're working on our issues, on our relationship with money, on how we treat people. It's hard. We're learning that we were both raised to think we deserved things we hadn't earned. Working on changing that mindset. Grace. Keep going, I wrote back. By month 6, something shifted in me. I realized I hadn't thought about Grace for an entire day. Not because I didn't care, but because I had my own life now. I had friends, work, purpose. I wasn't just Grace's mother anymore. I was Hannah, a person in my own right. Maria invited me to join her community garden plot. We grew tomatoes and herbs together. Betty taught me to knit. I made scarves for the homeless shelter. Diane and I went to water aerobics at the community center every Tuesday. I was 70 years old and I was finally living for myself. Month 7 brought a test. Grace's email was different. Mom, my car broke down. Repair is $800. We have $600 in our emergency fund. We're $200 short. I wanted to call you. My finger was literally hovering over your number, but Adam stopped me. We figured it out. I'm taking the bus to work for 2 weeks. It takes an extra hour each way, but we'll save the $200. We'll get the car fixed without asking you. I'm telling you this not to make you feel guilty, but to show you I'm learning. Grace. I stared at that email for a long time. The old Hannah would have sent the $200 immediately. The new Hannah wrote back, I'm proud of you for solving it yourself. Month 9. It's my birthday today. I'm 32. You didn't call. I understand why. It hurt, but I understand. Adam took me to a free concert in the park. We had a picnic. It was actually really nice. Simple. We didn't need to spend a lot of money to have fun. I'm learning that too. Grace. I hadn't called because I'd genuinely forgotten. I'd been so busy with my own life. Part of me felt guilty. Part of me felt liberated. Month 11. We paid off our first credit card, $2,500. It took almost a year, but we did it. We still have more debt, but this feels like a victory. Also, I got promoted to assistant manager at the store. $300 more per month. We're looking at moving to a 1-bedroom apartment. We can afford it on our own. Grace. That's wonderful news, I replied. You should be proud. Month 12, the final email was long. Mom, it's been a year since you left, a year since I realized what I'd lost. I want you to know Adam and I are okay. We're making it. We have $2,000 in savings now. We're paying our bills on time. We're living within our means. I started volunteering at the women's shelter twice a week. I met a woman there who reminded me of you. Single mom working 3 jobs, barely surviving. I've been helping her with groceries, babysitting whatever she needs. I think I'm starting to understand what you sacrificed. I'll never fully grasp it, but I'm trying. Our lease is up next month. We're moving to a 1-bedroom in a better neighborhood. We can afford it ourselves. I don't know if you'll ever forgive me. I don't know if we'll ever have what we had when I was little. But I want you to know I'm not the same person I was a year ago. I hope you're happy, Mom. I hope Montana is good to you. I hope you're finally resting. And I hope if you're ready, we can talk. I love you. Grace. I read it 3 times, showed it to Sharon. What do you think? She asked. I think she might actually mean it this time. Are you ready to see her? I waited another month before I called Grace. 14 months since I'd left. 14 months since I'd heard her voice. The phone rang 3 times. Hello? She sounded cautious, hopeful. Grace, it's Mom. Silence, then a sob. Mom, oh my God. Mom, I got your emails. All of them. I didn't know if you were reading them. I read every one. Mom, I'm so sorry. For everything. Grace, I stopped her. I know you're sorry, but I need to tell you something. Okay? I'm proud of you, for the work you've done this year, for the changes you've made, for learning to stand on your own. She was crying now. I could hear it. Thank you, she whispered. But I need you to understand. We can't go back to how things were. I know. I'm not moving back. Montana is my home now. I have a life here. Friends, work, purpose. I'm glad, Mom. Really, you deserve that. I'd like to see you, though, if you want to come visit. Really, hope flooded her voice. You want to see me? Yes. But Grace, I need to be clear. I'm not your bank. I'm not your safety net. I'm just your mom, who would like to have coffee with her daughter. I understand. And Mom, I don't want your money. I just want you. We talked for an hour about her job, my life in Montana, the woman she was helping at the shelter. It felt different, real, like talking to an actual person instead of a transaction. When we hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. 2 weeks later, Grace flew to Montana. She'd saved for 3 months to buy the plane ticket. Sharon drove me to the airport to pick her up. You nervous? Sharon asked, terrified. Want me to come in with you? No, I need to do this part alone. I stood at the arrivals gate, watched people stream out. Then I saw her. Grace looked healthier than the last time I'd seen her. She'd gained some weight back. Her eyes were brighter. She saw me, stopped walking. We stood there, 20 feet apart, mother and daughter. Then she walked toward me. Hi, Mom. Hi, sweetheart. We stood there awkwardly, not sure what to do. Then Grace asked, Can I hug you now? I thought about it, about everything that had happened, about the year of growth, about the emails, about the woman my daughter was becoming. Yes, I said. You can hug me now. She wrapped her arms around me, held on tight, and I held her back. We both cried. I missed you, she whispered. I missed you too. The weekend was good. Not perfect, but good. I showed Grace around Bozeman, introduced her to Sharon, to Maria, to my book club friends. She fit in well, was polite, respectful, helped clean up after meals without being asked. On Sunday morning, we had coffee at a small cafe downtown. Mom, I need to ask you something. Okay. Can you forgive me? Really forgive me. I thought about it. I'm working on it. Some days are easier than others, but yes, I think eventually I will. What about us? Can we have a relationship again? We're having one right now, aren't we? Yeah, but is it enough? Am I enough? I reached across the table, took her hand. Grace, you were always enough. You just didn't see it because you were too busy looking at what you didn't have instead of what you did. I see it now? Good. Keep seeing it. We finished our coffee, walked around town. Before I took her to the airport, she gave me something, an envelope. What's this? Open it when I'm gone. At the airport, we hugged again. This time, it felt natural. Come visit again, I asked. I will. And Mom, you're welcome to visit us too. We set up a room for you. It's small, but it's yours if you want it. We'll see. She went through security, turned back once to wave. I waved back. When I got home, I opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $2,000 and a note. Mom, I know you don't want this, but Adam and I want to start paying you back. Not all of it. We know we never could, but something. This is our savings. All of it. We want you to have it. Not as payment for what we took, but as proof that we're trying. We'll send more when we can. Not because we owe you, but because we love you. Grace and Adam. I stared at the check. Sharon came into the room. You okay? I showed her the check and note. What are you going to do with it? I thought about it. Then I called the women's shelter where Grace volunteered. Donated it in Grace and Adam's name. When I told Grace later, she cried. That's perfect, Mom. Thank you. Thank you for becoming the kind of person who would give me her savings. 2 years have passed since the fire. I'm 72 now, still living in Montana with Sharon. We bought a small house together last year. 2 bedrooms, a garden, a porch swing. I still work at the elementary school. The kids call me Mrs. Hannah. Little Sophie, who smelled cookies on me that first day, is in 2nd grade now. She still climbs in my lap for story time. Grace and Adam bought a small house in their city, 3 bedrooms. They're talking about kids now, but they're asking themselves if they're ready, considering if they can afford it. Being responsible. Grace visits 4 times a year. I visit them twice. We talk on the phone every week. Real conversations about life, dreams, fears, small things. She never asks for money. I never offer. It's not part of our relationship anymore. Last month, Grace called with news. Mom, I got a promotion. I'm the store manager now. Grace, that's wonderful. And Mom, the first thing I did was set up a retirement account. I'm putting 10% of every paycheck into it because I watched you work until you were 70, and I don't want that for myself or for my kids someday. I cried when she said that. Not sad tears, proud tears. My daughter had finally learned the lesson I'd been trying to teach her whole life. You have to take care of yourself. You have to plan. You have to be responsible. On Mother's Day, a package arrived. Inside was a framed picture, the drawing Grace had made when she was 6. My mommy is the prettiest in the world. She'd had it restored. The edges were frayed, the paper yellowed, but someone had carefully preserved it under glass. The note said, "You hung this in every place we lived. Now I want you to hang it in your home, because you are still the prettiest, and the strongest, and the best mom I could have asked for, even when I didn't deserve you. I love you." Grace. I hung it in my bedroom, right next to my window where I can see it every morning. Sharon asked me once if I regretted how everything happened. Do I regret the fire, the fight, the year of silence? Yeah, I thought about it. No, because if none of that had happened, I'd still be killing myself to support 2 adults who didn't appreciate me. I'd still be invisible in my own life. I'd still be dying slowly while pretending to be alive. And now I'm living, really living, for the first time in my life. Maria, my neighbor, turned 81 last week. We threw her a party. My book club friends came. Sharon's colleagues from school, the librarian from work. 30 people celebrating one woman who'd spent most of her life alone. This is what community looks like, Maria said to me. This is what happens when you choose yourself. She was right. I spent 70 years believing my worth came from what I could give others. Now I know better. My worth comes from who I am, not what I can provide. I'm Hannah. I'm 72. I work at a school. I have friends. I have a home. I have a daughter who's learning to be better. And I have myself. Finally, after all these years, I have myself.